This is going to be my top 5 things that I prefer in Pathfinder 2e over D&D 5th edition. This is based on DMing a campaign in Curse of Strahd. Got through that. Have another campaign where I played as a character under my belt, and then also having played campaigns in 4th, 3rd, 3.5, 2nd, 1st, and basic D&D, and DM'd in all of those as well. So I do have a little bit of experience in that. I have played a couple of shorter game sessions in Pathfinder, just like 2 or 3 months, and getting ready to gear up for a new campaign in that very shortly. We're going to be running through the Abomination Vaults, and as I've been gearing up for that, I've been doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of YouTubing. Thank you, No Nats, for all of your excellent coverage on the Pathfinder 2 series. Love your input. Don't always agree with you, but enjoy your enthusiasm. And so thought that I would share my thoughts on what I prefer in Pathfinder over D&D 5e. Hope you
What
enjoy.
is your background?
My background? Oh, my father was Armenian. My mother was half Jewish, half English, half Spanish.
That's 3 halves.
Oh, she was a big woman.
So the first thing I want to talk about relating to those things that I really enjoy about Pathfinder 2e over 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons are the Ancestry feats. For those of you that haven't played Pathfinder yet, their answer to race is Ancestry. And you might say, well, why change the word if it's going to be the same thing? Well, it's not exactly the same thing either, because Ancestry also really dives a little deeper into the cultural aspects of the different races as well. So, for example, you have a set of Ancestry feats that you can gain at various levels, 1st, 5th, 9th, 13th, so on. And they're going to be different for each ancestry, and they're going to be significantly bound to the historical nature of the ancestry that you're dealing with. Also, of course, Paizo puts their own spin on things, so dwarves are a little different than dwarves in D&D, elves are a little different than elves in D&D, and most importantly, goblins are way different in Pathfinder than they are in Dungeons and Dragons, have a lot more flavor and just overall that Paizo spin. One of the coolest things with the whole Ancestry system is what they call versatile heritages. So what the versatile heritage system is an ability to combine what would be 2 different races in Dungeons and Dragons into just an aspect of the ancestry here. So, for example, in Dungeons and Dragons, you can have an Aasimar, but typically the Aasimar is always going to be more human in nature with an angelic background. Well, in Pathfinder, I could have a dwarf with that Aasimar versatile heritage. Same thing with Dhamphirs, with tieflings. So there's lots of different versatile heritages. Matter of fact, that is also how Pathfinder 2e handles half-elves and half-elves. They're just a versatile heritage for humans. And it actually even says in the book, if you wanted to, you could take half-elves and combine those aspects with another race like a dwarf. So you could have a half-elf, half-dwarf. But overall, that is what I really like about the Ancestry system in Pathfinder 2e.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man.
Okay, the second thing I wanted to talk about with Pathfinder 2e that I find to be an advantage over the 5e D&D system, it's going to be the way that you accumulate your ability scores. They have a system of what they call stat boosts and flaws. A boost is a +2 to an ability score, and a flaw is a -2. All your scores start at 10. The ability score modifiers are the same as you would see in D&D, so you get an extra +1 for every 2 full points. But the cool thing about it is how you accumulate those. So they have a system that they call their ABC method. That's your ancestry, your background, and your class. So your ancestry is going to determine a couple of your stat boosts as well as a flaw, most likely. Most of them have flaws. Your background, or what your history was, what you did for a living before you became an adventurer, is also going to determine one of your stat boosts, or actually 2 of them, but one of them is going to be a freebie that you can put anywhere. And then your class is going to determine a stat boost as well. So rather than just having a really strong dwarf and just assuming it's because he's a dwarf and he's a fighter, I now have a dwarf that is, he's got a high strength score because he had a background as a blacksmith, and so he was able to get a stat boost from that, from being a blacksmith. Additionally, because he's a fighter, he gets another stat boost to strength. So as he was training to be a fighter, it made him stronger, of course. So those kind of things, while the end result is going to be similar, you're going to have similar stats as you would in 5e D&D. I think building the story into the mechanics is what really sets Pathfinder's stat boost and flaw system apart from D&D 5e.
First shalt thou take out the holy pin. Then shalt thou count to 3. No more, no less.
Another thing that I really enjoy whenever I'm playing Pathfinder versus 5e D&D is the 3-action economy. I know that a lot's been said about this, and it's probably been overblown to a certain extent, but it still needs mentioning. So in D&D, you have your bonus action, your move action, your attack action, or standard action, and then you can have actions that combine those and take more. But basically, to me, it is trying to do the same thing that the tabletop RPG has done for 40 years, and in doing so, it's remaining as clunky as some of those earlier attempts. Pathfinder has simplified all this. You get 3 actions. You can do anything you want with those 3 actions, but you get 3 of them. You can move 3 times. You can attack, move, attack. You can open up a chest and then move and then attack. You can cast spells. One of the great things about the 3-action economy regarding spells is they make those spells more scalable. A lot of spells have one effect if you use 1 action, another effect if you use 2, and an even greater effect if you use 3 actions. So it makes them much more potent if you're willing to devote more of your round to them. So they also have thought about the very abusable idea of, well, I'm just going to use all my actions to attack every turn. Well, they actually penalize each subsequent attack beyond the first. So your second attack will be at -5 to hit. You know, that's a 25% penalty to your attack, basically. And then your third attack would be at -10, which is a ridiculous penalty unless you are well over the power of what you're trying to hit. So that ends up encouraging you to use some different actions that you might not actually use during a D&D game, because you've got this extra action and it's really inefficient to just attack 3 times. So you might aid an ally. I know that's an ability in D&D, but I just don't see it used very often whenever I'm playing or with the folks that I play with. Maybe your group's different. You can do sense motive, you can do recall knowledge, you can do intimidate, you can do demoralize. All of these different things have mechanical advantages. And you get those options as part of the 3-action economy because you're trying to make the most out of all 3 of those actions without mindlessly just saying attack, attack, attack. So that is why I like the 3-action economy.
Also, we don't need another party member. I'm our paladin, Will's our cleric, Dustin's our bard, Lucas is our ranger, and Elle's our mage. Elle?
Number 4 for Pathfinder is the variety in the classes that are officially available. And I know that Dungeons and Dragons 5e has a ton of subclass features that can mimic to some degree a full class because they can be quite different than the base class. But Pathfinder 2e has a overwhelming amount of choices. So they're at 20 base classes now, plus they have fully fleshed out subtype options for those classes, and they each have a wide variety of feat choices that are based on those classes, as well as a fully functional multi-class feature in the game. Some of the classes that you see as base classes in Pathfinder, Investigator, Oracle, Gunslinger, Magus, Inventor, etc., etc., etc. So these are all things that, yes, you could probably create or use a homebrew or potentially even an official subclass in D&D to come up with something somewhat similar, but you don't get the level of detail and choice that goes along with a fully fleshed out class and a fully fleshed out advancement schedule for that class. So that is why I really prefer, after only 2 years roughly in existence, Pathfinder 2e is already at 20 official classes, and they're going to be adding a couple more in the next couple months, and then a couple more over the summer too. So we'll be at 24 official classes by the end of August. And all of them are interesting, and all of them fill their own niche. So that is my number 4, and those are the official classes that are available in the Pathfinder 2e gaming system.
If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been.
And the final thing I'm going to be talking about related to these different features of Pathfinder that I prefer above and beyond what's available in 5e is actually going to be a surprise to some, and to those that have played in it, probably not a surprise at all, but the world of Golarion. Golarion, when I first looked at it, really struck me as your typical kitchen sink, include pastiches of all of the different cultures around the world, and spice with some fantasy added in there. So I thought, why would I want to play this if I have a similar option in Faerun and the Forgotten Realms and D&D? What makes this special? Well, what makes this special is that the level of detail that has been put into these different regions in 2nd edition with the Lost Omens guides. This is the World Guide for Lost Omens. But also through the Adventure Pass, both in 1st and 2nd edition, there is a tremendous amount of depth in all of these areas, and they're always expanding into new areas. The Mwangi Expanse has its own book, which is about 300 pages. Absalom has its own book, which is 400 pages. Beetle and Grimm's is releasing an entire box set, which I have pre-ordered for Absalom as well. They have an area called the Shackles, which is a pirate-based setting, and with all of the goodies, you've got your pistol-wielding pirates and all that goes along with that, treasure hunting and sailing. And there's a complete 6-book adventure path that details that lifestyle and that area, which is a lot of page count to devote to this little section here. There's a 6-book adventure path that is in the Mwangi area that is finishing up, I believe, right now. There's a couple of them that are on the Isle of Kortos. And throughout the history of Pathfinder, which is about 15 years old now, a lot of this has been explored in some level of detail, and if you have the desire, you can get some really interesting information about a lot of these different cultures and a lot of these different environments. So if you're wanting to have a rich, deep world building experience, leaving just enough of the pages unwritten for you to make it your own, Golarion is a great place to start, and it's going to have the ability to do any type of campaign that you're wanting to do, and there's going to be support available through expansions and books if you so desire. So if you like the video, please think about subscribing. We'll be having some additional Pathfinder content on the channel, as well as my solo board gaming. I haven't given that up, I just haven't had time recently. So in the near future, I'm going to be doing a unboxing and review of the Absalom box set by Beadle and Grimm. So that'll be coming. I just talked to the guys at Beadles and Grimm yesterday, and they're supposed to be shipping those out next month. So I eagerly await that. I'll probably talk a little bit about the campaign. I am just getting ready to start running through the Abomination Vaults. And we'll maybe talk about some of the individual books that are available now for Pathfinder 2E. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Again, think about a subscription, and please like the video if you enjoyed it. Until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.